Hello. I am back today to hopefully do some depotting and customizing of my Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. In my last video, I go through my collection of palettes. I tell you what I think of each of them. I tell you which ones I want to keep. And I ultimately conclude that all palettes, except for one or two, has some really nice shades in it, but I don't want to keep a 14 pan palette for like 3 shades. So I did a little bit of research to see which is the best technique to depot Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, and I'm going to attempt one of them, see how it goes. But according to the internet, it seems like these pans are actually magnetic pans. They're not pans that you can remove easily from these palettes because they are glued in, so the palettes aren't magnetic. So you can't swap out the shades very easily. But when you do take them out, they do stick into a magnetic palette, which is great because it means I don't need to stick them into a palette. I don't need to get little stickers. I don't need to stick magnets on the back of them, whatever. They just stick into a magnetic palette. Now I do have a really big one here. My goal was not to have to use such a big one. This one's from Cleona, but it is a magnet. I did have a couple of Z palettes, which are smaller, but I can't find them at the moment. So I'm not sure if I decluttered them when I moved house. But the goal is to not hopefully fill this up. We'll see. Now, if you watch that video, you will know that I am keeping the Sultry intact. It's one of my favorite palettes. I love the packaging. I love the shades. It is such a good palette. Maybe besides the coral, I love every single shade. So this is one that's not being torn apart because this is the only one that I would lose sleep over if I lost. So this one is staying. So the technique that I'm going to try today is actually loosening some of the glue with some isopropyl alcohol. This is just one that you get in Australia from like the supermarket. And then you sort of jimmy it out with something, the pan out with something sharp. So you just want to loosen the glue. I have also seen some people just straight out get something sharp like a knife and jimmy these out without loosening the glue. That is an option if getting isopropyl alcohol down the sides of the pan is too hard to do. But I don't really want to warp the pans because these are so softly pressed. I can foresee that any sort of wobbling of the pan will crumble them, especially the mattes. So I am going to try the isopropyl alcohol method. So I've just got a little dropper that I kept from like an eye serum sample. I've got a makeup spatula, so hopefully I can get in the sides. If that's too thick, I have these tweezers with the sharp edges. If they don't fit in, I might get a thinner knife, but I'm hoping that these will work. And I'm just going to use isopropyl alcohol to drop in the sides. So we'll see how that goes. So the technique is pretty much drop isopropyl alcohol down the sides of the pans and then wait a few minutes for it to soften the glue a little bit and then start prying out the pan. So I'm going to just put isopropyl alcohol in all pans, put it aside. Even if it's going to be a shade that I'm not really going to keep, I'm going to just try to take out all the shades and line them up and see what kind of colors I like and do some swatching. I've got the Modern Renaissance, Subculture, I've got Prism, Soft Glam, and the Norvina palettes. Those are the first 5 that I'm going to work on. I'm going to zoom in and see how easy this is. So all I'm going to do is pour some isopropyl alcohol, onto the pan. There we go. Just in the lid so I can pick it up with a dropper. And I'll start with this palette just because it's in the middle of the view. So I just want to show you, see how easy this is to get in the sides. I don't actually think it's as easy as people are making out. Maybe if you just run it like along the packaging. I'm not planning on keeping the packaging. So instead of flooding the pans, which look, it's not going to be that big a deal. Isopropyl alcohol does evaporate, but I'm going to try to very carefully just put it down the sides by starting on the packaging. I don't know if it's going in there. I think it is. This is going to take a lot longer than I expected. All right, I feel like putting it in the corners seems to be the best bet. Just sort of pushing it. Hopefully you can see because the light's not the best. Just pushing it into the corner seems to get product in there without flooding the pan. So I think that's going to be my technique. And I'm just going to do that to all pans. The benefit of flooding the corner as well is that if you do get it on the shadow, Isopropyl alcohol shouldn't really affect the shadow, but if it does, you're only affecting the corner, which is probably your least used section. So it's going to be my technique. Alright, so each pan didn't seem like it's really flooded or done anything, but I did use like 2 capfuls of isopropyl alcohol, so there's definitely alcohol in here. What you can see from this point of view is that there's a lot of repetitive shades, which is why I'm going to pop them all out, line them up sort of in colour order, and then decide which ones I want to keep and get rid of. Like there are so many sort of cool tone browns, peachy, mattes, there's mauvey shades coming out the wazoo. So there's like, do I need noir and obsidian? These are the questions. So I am going to have a quick look, but what I'm going to do now is move these just to the side while they sort of dissolve the glue, and I'm going to do the same to the last 4 palettes. All right, with the last 4 palettes, I've got the Riviera, the Alyssa Edwards, the Jackie Aina, and the Carli Bybel. We're seeing some new textures here, so some shimmery formulas, but we're also seeing again some repetitive shades. We've got a lot of like matte purples, we've got some shimmery purples, we've got some bright pinks. There's again, so these peachy matte colors. There's quite a lot of repetitive shades. We've got so many chocolate browns, for 1 in each palette. So yeah, even though I'm probably going to keep quite a few shades, I do want to get rid of some of the redundancy here. All right, let's get back to the original 5. Let's see how easy it is to jimmy these out now that they have had alcohol put in the sides. Answer is not easy. Seems like the spatula is way too big. Let's try tweezers. All right, so I tried these 2 tools. I feel like they're too big to get in the corner. I will keep them around to help like jimmy the pan out. But I've gone and got my pottery tool. So this is a tool that you use to like trim the top of pots and to score joins and whatnot. So it just looks like that. You get it at craft shops. I'm hoping I can get in the corner and pry it out. The only other option I'm thinking of is maybe like a needle, but I'm just worried that needles are a little bit weaker than this and might break, so hopefully this works. Having a bit of a poke, yep, that works. So pottery needle for the win. And you can definitely see that that alcohol got underneath to loosen the glue. This one is getting you can see a little bit of a crack there, but since these are so soft, you can probably just push it back into place. Yeah, yeah, you can definitely see the mattes are so soft that they are cracking with a bit of pan manipulation. All right, just to save time, I'm going to remove all of these off camera. You can see how it works, you can see the technique, and I don't want this video to be an hour long, so let's get to me sort of arranging these and having a look at doubles. Alrighty, here's all the shades taken out. Look, it wasn't as successful as the first palette. I noticed a couple of things. Firstly, the amount of glue that was on the back at the start versus later on. Like, that one's too fragile to turn around. Let's have a look. The amount of glue like dramatically increased. So there you go. So it's so much easier pulling out the Modern Renaissance palette than the Future palettes. A lot of the time I was just trying to remove the pan from the glue, and any warping of the pan would crack the mattes. You can see that the Subculture palette, maybe I'll zoom in. Hopefully you can see the Subculture palette was a lot more fragile, and so was the Prism. a lot more fragile than the one above it. And then it sort of varied. Like up here, the soft Glam was almost perfect to remove, easy to remove. And then as you get into the brighter colors, these were also really, really crumbly to remove. I was hoping to keep a couple of purples, but I don't know if I can be bothered in this state. They're so messy and so crumbly. So one thing that's interesting is the only shades that crumbled were the mattes. All the shimmers were beautiful because I could flex a little bit better with the pan. But yeah, this is, look, you could probably do it a lot more carefully than I did. I do have a deadline. I have sun going down. I've got my kid being looked after for a short period of time. So you probably can do a little bit better than I did, but yeah, mixed results. I don't know if the alcohol helped. Look, there were moments where I was like, okay, the alcohol has helped loosen this, but there are other moments where I'm like, it's doing nothing. So I'm just not too sure how effective the alcohol step was, since so many of these were damaged just because they wouldn't lift easily out of the pan because of the glue. So there's part of me that would recommend a stronger product to dissolve the adhesive, but then it might be really unsafe for your eyes and also ruin the eyeshadows if it gets on the eyeshadows. So it's just going to be, look, you're depotting, you're taking a gamble. A lot of these shades like that aren't too cracked, you can sort of just push it back into place because these are really soft formula. So it's not the worst thing in the world if you want to save some, but then there's others that are like really destroyed. All right, I've sort of roughly grouped the color stories, and let's just call a spade here. How many similar types of eyeshadows do you really need? Yes, there are some categories that are a little bit more unique, like the yellows, for example. But when we get over to like the browns, which I'll zoom in on, there are so many matte browns or matte sort of terracotta shades or matte sort of caramel shades. There are so many bronzes. There is so much repetitive shades here that's like, why do I need them all? So what I'm going to do is go through and find out which ones I like the most. I'm going to get rid of the ones that are really repetitive or that are too broken to bother saving. And I'm going to try to whittle this down to a manageable, I don't know, eyeshadow palette format. All right, here we are. I have gone through each color story and decided which ones I want to play with at the very least. So I've sort of gone matte rose, shimmer rose, matte rose, shimmer rose, matte rose, shimmer rose, and just some random dregs down the bottom. Now, there are a lot of shades in here, let's just be real, and a lot of them are quite repetitive. I've got like a couple of mauves, a bunch of these sort of caramelly shades. I've got a lot of light shimmers. I've got a lot of shimmery bronzes and golds and some browns. These are the sort of shades I wear every day, so I didn't want to like get rid of them willy-nilly when I like the formula. It's just a matter of if I use some and I don't like them, I'm going to pop them out and get rid of them. Ideally, I would have liked to have just kept it to like 2 or 3 rows, all these random ones down the bottom. It was just more of a, like I'll just lighten this a bit. Down here I've got some sort of more dark plummy shades. I don't use them too often, but I do like them, so I thought I may as well keep them. The formulas are quite nice. And it's just a matter of playing around and seeing which ones, you know, I need to keep. All right, editing cat here, and I do want to express how annoyed I am in retrospect that I didn't get to keep any of the purples. I really like this palette. I've been using it the past couple of days, or last week or so. I'm wearing it on my eyes today, and I really love it as a nude palette. There's a lot of excess. I'm going to get rid of a few. But if I could have put in some like colors here and some more purples, I think I would have been really, really satisfied with the outcome. Yesterday I edited the Project Imageddon video, and I was sort of watching me gush about how much I like the purples, and then I didn't get to keep any. So I am disappointed in that regard. I feel like if I knew they were going to be as sort of fragile and as crumbly as they were, I would have been a lot more careful with my removal of the pans, and I do feel like this is missing some purple here. There are some nice purples here. This would have been such a good experience, and I really would have loved the outcome, but without those purples I'm sort of like, Maybe I should have just kept the Jackie Aina palette intact. So yeah, I'm a bit funny about it. I think it's the only time in this series where I've depotted eyeshadow and created my own eyeshadow, and there's been a little twinge of regret. But overall, I think keeping like the stack of 10 palettes versus keeping one that I can reach for on a daily basis, I feel like this still wins out in the end, because I haven't used some of those palettes for years and years prior to doing these videos, and whereas this I've been consistently reaching for over the past week or so, and I've been really enjoying using it. So yeah, there's still a twinge of regret, but shit happens. So I have kept I think it's 59 shades, which is a lot. That's like the equivalent of 4 or 5 of the palettes. So I've kept half. It looks like I've pretty much kept them all, but if I then move you across, you'll see all the shades that I didn't keep, and some of it was down to, okay, I might like this shade, but do I want to fix that? Probably not. And then some were just color stories that I don't really use. These all swatch in an almost identical way, so I just thought, look, get rid of the ones I don't use, get rid of the ones that are broken, get rid of the ones that are super repetitive. So I'm not going to swatch the shades that I'm keeping, because it's not going to be the final palette, but also there's nearly 60 shades, so it's a lot. But I will have a close-up on the screen of the palette so you can have a look at it a little bit better. And that's it for today. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!